Hi guys, I'm Kasha. Welcome to the channel and welcome as always to our favorite time, coffee time, talking books. And today I'm here to show you the last books that I have been accumulating this summer.
It's coffee time.
Honestly, I have not been purchasing many books lately because I've mentioned before, I think in some of my vlogs, that we are finally house hunting and we actually might be getting a house way faster than we expected. So I want to minimize A, my costs, and B, the amount of stuff that I have to carry with me, because we all agree that I already have enough to carry to the new place. So I'm trying to be a little bit more, kind of not really in a buying band, but I'm just trying to behave myself and focus on moving first, and then getting all the books that I wanted that I have been passing on for now. So here I have a little book haul of 26 books that I have been accumulating since my last book haul. So first of all, I would like to give a big thanks to 3 people that were super nice to me and sent me some birthday presents from my wish list or from Amazon, because I had birthday at the end of August. So I did receive a couple of packages and I would like to start showing you the books that I got. The first one is a book that I am extremely excited to read, and that is Midnight Club by Christopher Pike. This was sent to me by one of my subscribers that always comments, always is super supportive, so thank you so much for sending this one my way. This one I'm so excited for because it is Christopher Pike, because I love the story, but also because Netflix is releasing a limited series. It's still planned for 2021 and it is directed by Mike Flanagan, whom I love. He directed movies like Oculus, but also you all probably know him from the Netflix shows Hunting on Hill House and The Hunting of Bly Manor. So I'm really excited that he was able to get this book to put it into a mini series or limited series. And this is the story of some terminally ill patients that are at a hospital, and they have this club called the Midnight Club, and they kind of joke to each other like, the first one from us that dies should come back as a ghost and let us know what's up on the other side, something like that. And it just sounds really interesting to me and I'm super excited to get to the book. Then I received a book from a great friend and booktuber called Kayla from Crack Into a Good Book, and that is Cultburg by Tim LeBon. And actually I heard about this book over at her channel, and since then I've been meaning to read it, and I did put it on my wish list because it just sounded great for me. Now this might not be a book for everybody right now because it does talk about a virus spreading, so if it's something that you're not ready to read about, just keep that in mind. But this is about, I think, a kind of like a laboratory that is on the Appalachian Mountains, and they make a discovery to a new world, but they also end up unleashing something else, which is kind of a virus that spreads, so they have to kind of find a cure. So I believe this is horror, science fiction, apocalyptic kind of story, and I love those. I'm always a sucker for apocalyptic stories. There's something about thinking about possible ways the world could end and what would happen if a big part of humankind would be erased. I don't know, it's just such an interesting concept, so I'm really excited about this one. So thank you so much, Kayla, and I really hope I'm going to love it as much as you did. I definitely love books that also take place in like mountains and isolated places, so I really hope I'm gonna love it. Then Andreas, who is one of my craziest subscribers because he always sends me a lot of goodies, and I appreciate so much all the presents you sent me for my birthday this year. So he sent me all of these presents and let's dig into them. He sent me a graphic novel that actually I've had on my wish list for a long time and I still had not picked up, so I'm super excited that he chose this one for me, and that is Black Hole by Charles Burns. And this one I've been really excited about because I've heard only good reviews from people that I follow, and also it is a novel based on the 70s about a plague that only seems to affect teenagers, and they all react in different ways to this kind of virus, to this kind of plague, and I'm just so intrigued about it. And also I think it touches a little bit on teenage angst and, you know, teenager behavior. So I'm just super excited for this one. Next we have En Vacances. I think that's more or less the French pronunciation. That's all I can give you guys. And this one is by David A. Sutton, but it is a compilation of really short stories. It says here it's a series of micro collections featuring a selection of peculiar tales from the best in horror and speculative fiction. So I've never heard of it. Really excited. It's perfect if you want to squeeze in a couple of stories here and there quickly. Yeah, really intrigued to check this one out because I have never heard anybody talking about it. The next book that he sent me is a book that I am so excited to have received, because this is a duology of books that are based on video games, and the covers are fantastic, and I think they both are really gory and bloody, which is something that I like in my horror sometimes. And the cover is just 10 out of 10, and that is Nun Massacre. It is by Regina Watts, and not long ago there was this brand new release of a, I think, fantasy slash a little bit of horror book that was released that involved cannibal nuns, or that was what it was promised, and I was meaning to check that one out to see if it was good, because the concept of cannibalistic nuns really intrigued me, not gonna lie. But now I have this slasher in which apparently nuns are not as nice as they are supposed to be. It's a book that takes place in 1978, and it involves a massacre of students and some nuns. So I'm not really sure what I'm getting myself into. Like I said, these are books based on video games as well, and they promise to be bloody. And the last book that I got from Andreas is a book that he said on his note that this was a new extended release of a coming of age story, and I've never heard of this one before, so I'm excited. You guys know I love coming of age stories, and that is Weeping Willow and Other Tales by Christy Aldrich. I believe it follows a 9-year-old girl and her life, and how her life changes after she goes to prom and something happens to her. I think it's going to be really emotional for what I can tell by the synopsis and the cover, of course also the title. But I really enjoy coming of age stories. There's something about them that just feels so relatable, so I'm really excited about this one as well. Now let's go to the books that I got for myself. Like I've mentioned, I'm trying to be more selective. I'm not gonna pick up many books before I move, because it means I have to carry everything with me, so I'm probably just gonna wait until I'm in the new place to start building my collection again. But I did pick up a couple of new releases. The first one, of course, had to be Billy Summers by Stephen King. It came out right before my holidays, and I wanted to squeeze it in before I went to Spain, but I didn't have the time, and I didn't want to pressure myself or rush through the book. So I'm giving myself time, and I'm currently reading this now in the month of September. This is about a killer for hire that has specialized on, you know, just killing people for money, and he's a really good sniper, so he's offered a really good job, a job that sounds too good to be true, for a lot of money, and he's thinking before he retires he might take that last job. Next we have The Book of Accidents by Chuck Wendig. This follows a married couple and their son that move back into their hometown house, and there is a lot of things that happened in the past that is going to come back to haunt them. And last but definitely not least, we have Chasing the Boogeyman by Richard Chismar, and this one I am extremely excited about because it combines horror fiction with true crime, and this one's not too long, so I'm hoping that I can binge this on a weekend or something like that, because I'm really excited to see how the book is. It follows a series of murders that start to happen in a city and the investigation around them. So you guys know I love true crime and investigations and serial killers, so I am hoping that this is going to be a 5-star for me. And of course, when I start recording it has to start raining, but we're gonna roll with it. So when I was in Spain, I picked up 2 books in Spanish because they are by Spanish authors, so the original is always in Spanish, so I decided why not, let's pick them up. The first one is by an author that always combines either mythology or history of art with his books, and I have read a couple of his books before and really loved them. So I picked up his new release, which is called El Mensaje de Pandora by Javier Sierra. That basically means Pandora's message. I've tried to see if he has any translated books, and there is one that is translated for sure, and that is called The Last Supper, which is a really good book that I already read, and it's based on the painting of the Last Supper. Now this one is an interpretation of Pandora, and he is kind of going through history and explaining other plagues and viruses that spread throughout the world, and it's all told in a letter that a girl receives from Athens, from Greece. So it sounds really interesting to me, and sadly I don't think this one has been translated yet, but I just wanted to show it to you guys. The other book that I picked in Spanish is a book that has been translated that I actually had on my wish list, and the English title is The Librarian of Auschwitz, in Spanish La Bibliotecaria de Auschwitz. It is by Antonio Iturbe, and this follows a 14-year-old girl that is in a concentration camp, and some of the prisoners there have been able to smuggle a couple of books, and they're trying to hide them, and then she's trying to create their own like tiny library in the midst of all of these horrifying events. I'm hoping it's going to be not just sad but also a little bit uplifting, because it is a heavy topic every time you read about concentration camps. I'm really excited to read it though, because I do love books that are kind of, you know, emotional but also bring really good messages, and I have the feeling that this is going to be one of them. Let's go to some middle grade books that I have picked up. I have been picking up some of the Creepover books because every time I see them for a really good price, I've been snatching them for the collection because these are just a lot of fun. So I picked up Creepover Volume 2, which follow a girl that is really excited about the new neighbors because they have children her age, and they all kind of organize a sleepover when of course strange things start to happen. Then we have Volume 4, The Show Must Go On, and it is the story of Becca. She has decided that she really wants to be on stage. She loves to be on stage, so she wants to be on the school play, and she ends up getting the main role, and the play is called The Last Sleepover. However, of course, again, weird things are going to happen on that stage. Number 7, Is She For Real? Brittany moves into a new town, and that town has a legend of Lady Warwick, and this is a woman that supposedly lived centuries ago and died of a broken heart. However, her grave has been found empty. Number 8, Together Forever, and we follow some girls that are at a summer camp, and they all wake up having the same nightmare, all except Sam. She doesn't have a nightmare, she has a beautiful dream with a beautiful boy, and she decides to ignore the counselors and everybody and venture into the woods to try to find this boy. And number 11, Don't Drink the Punch. This one has kind of the themes of Mean Girls and the Popular Girls, and also involves a love potion. And then secondhand, I picked up a couple of Goosebumps books. The first one is number 33, The Horror at Camp Jelly Jam, and this is all about a camp in which, you know, kids can participate in multiple sports. Our main character is not really a sports person, and she's kind of, you know, considering why everybody is so focused on winning, and also why are all of these kids disappearing. Next we have number 38, The Abominable Snowman of Pasadena, and we follow two kids that live in hot Pasadena, and finally their dad is taking them to Alaska for a great adventure when they make a kind of interesting discovery, and it is a really hairy creature. And the last one with my favorite cover is number 44, Say Cheese and Die Again, and this is about a kid that discovers a camera that when you use it, it shows you basically just the truths, and he makes a report about this camera that he's supposed is evil, but nobody believes him. Like, does any adult ever believe the kids in horror books or horror movies? Of course not. while I was scrolling through my Amazon wish list, something that I do sometimes, I realized that there was a book I had on my wish list that was on sale on Amazon for only €4 brand new, and I was like, yes, please send it to me. And that is Black Wing by Christina Henry. This is the first book on a paranormal slash urban fantasy series, and from Christina Henry, I've only read her, dark twists on fairy tales like the Alice in Wonderland series, and also I've read Near the Bone that she released, was it last year or this year? I forget. I have no memory. And this one is one that I thought sounded interesting because it is kind of like an angel of death, and her job is basically to escort the souls of the recently deceased into the other life, and that is basically her job 24/7. Then I decided to pick two books that I needed for my 70s reading challenge that I am currently doing now in the month of September. The first one is The Other by Thomas Tryon, and this is a classic book that a lot of people have read, and I've always been intrigued about it because we do follow here two twins, and one of them seems to be evil, so that is something that I always like to see. We love twins, we love evil twins, and I have not read this book like ever, and I know it's like one of those that a lot of people have read, so I thought it would be perfect for this reading challenge. It was also really hard to get a copy of this book. Most of the older editions are extremely expensive, and this is a new edition, and even though it's just a regular paperback, nothing really special about it, this is €15, which is basically what I could pay for a hardback copy of a book, so it is crazy. But I'm really hoping that I will enjoy this book as much as other people have. And the other book that I got for this reading challenge is The Exorcist by William Peter Blatty, and this is a copy that I found secondhand. It is a 70s copy. It is not a first edition, but I'm happy to have a kind of vintage paperback of the book because I'm such a huge fan of the movie. And even though I really have a special place in my heart for the movie because it was one of the first horror movies that I ever watched, I somehow never picked up the book. And I am really excited, but also really scared to get into the book because I don't know if I'm gonna love it or not. I've heard amazing things about it, but we shall see. I believe the story is fairly similar to the story that I know from the movie, which is these couple that start to notice that their daughter exhibits this kind of weird behavior, and they end up realizing that she might be possessed and decide to call a priest, and they end up doing an exorcism. I don't know if it's going to be exactly like the movie, but hopefully it's going to be a book that I'm gonna love because, like I said, really big fan of the movie. Now let's go to a couple of older books that I've picked up on eBay as well secondhand, and the first one is a book from a series that I've never in my life read, but since watching Cameron Chaney over at the Library Macabre, I kind of am intrigued to read some Nancy Drew books. This is the only Nancy Drew books that I have been able to find here so far for a decent price. This is Nancy Drew Files Case 3 Murder on Ice. I'm hoping this is just going to be one of those quick, fun, light reads that I can throw in here and there when I just need something easy to read, something that is just fun. And I don't know, I've never read the Nancy Drew Files or cases. I don't think this was something that we kids that grew up in Spain ever knew of, but thanks to the amazing booktube community and thanks to the internet, I'm able to find out all of these other things that I never knew growing up, and I'm excited to check it out. Moving on, I have a really weird, interesting discovery. So recently I was at a comic store that I used to get a lot of comics from, and I realized that they had some books. Most of them were in German, but I did see one book in English, and lucky enough for me, it was a book that was also kind of horror, so I decided to pick it up, and that is 9 Coaches Waiting by Mary Stewart. And not only was this a really interesting find, this is supposed to be some gothic mystery romance story, but this book is from 1958, and this is the first edition. The only date that I can find inside of this book is 1958. So it is like, why am I finding a nearly perfect copy of a book from 1958? So weird, but I'm really excited to give it a try. This is based on the story of a governess that goes to a chateau in France, and when she gets into this place, strange things start to happen. It sounds really familiar to The Turn of the Screw and familiar to The Haunting of Bly Manor that we saw on Netflix. That kind of story, that kind of vibe. So needless to say, I'm really excited to check it out and see how it is. Also have never heard about this book before, but that's the beauty of finding things in the wild. And searching eBay, I found a book about a true crime story that I've heard about before. It is horrifying and it is a really gross story, but I do want to read more true crime books, and this is a story that happened not far away from Germany. It happened in Austria, and the book is called House of Horrors: The Horrific True Story of Joseph Fritzl, The Father from Hell, by Nigel Cawthorne. And if you don't know the story about this man took his 18-year-old daughter and he locked her on the basement, and they didn't let her out for 24 years. You can imagine the horrors that happened down there in that basement, and the horror when everybody found out that he had been doing that for so long to his own daughter. Now, I have heard about this story but never seen like a full-on long documentary about it, so I'm hoping that this book is going to be kind of enlightening and kind of letting me know the story from a different point of view. I really appreciate when a true crime story is told from different perspectives, and it's not kind of taking parts or not trying to sensationalize something. So we shall see, but I'm excited, I guess. I think it's a weird thing to say based on this horrific story, but I'm interested, I guess, on reading this book and find out what actually happened. And the last book that I would like to show you is something that I also found on eBay for cheap, and I decided to pick it up, and that is this hardcover edition of James Herbert, and it has, I think, four different of his novels all in one volume. Now, I'm not a big fan of having a volume that includes several novels, but it was really cheap. I think it was like €4 or something, and I just really like the spine and the cover, and I do not have the 4 novels separate yet, so you know, if I want to read them, I have access to them now. And James Herbert is really well known. He combines horror with a little bit more of thriller vibes sometimes. And yeah, I just decided to pick it up because I thought this edition was just so pretty. It's one of those hardcovers that doesn't have a dust jacket, and I believe this was published in 1990. This edition is from 1990, so it is possibly also first edition of the book. And yeah, like, I just really like this cover, and the spine is gonna look so cute on my bookshelves. So yeah, I decided to pick it up. Alright you guys, so I hope that you enjoyed this video. These are all the books that I have been accumulating since my last book haul. Let me know down below what you thought about the books that I have been picking up, and let me know down below what is the last book that you have purchased for yourself. It doesn't matter if it's secondhand or brand new, or if you don't buy books and just get them from the library. Let me know which one is the last one that you've checked out. Let's talk about new books that we purchased for ourselves in the comments down below. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. Please give the video a big thumbs up, and I hope to see you all, as always, in our next coffee time. Bye!